Well, someone's asked me a good question. If I can't vote for Democrats because they're pro-abortion, how can I stand with Israel when Israel's pro-abortion?
It's time for The Line of Fire with your host, biblical scholar and cultural commentator, Dr. Michael Brown. Your voice for moral sanity and spiritual clarity. Call 866-34-TRUTH to get on The Line of Fire. And now, here's your host, Dr. Michael Brown.
Thanks for joining us on Thoroughly Jewish Thursday on The Line of Fire. Thrilled to be back in our home studio after a couple of days on the road in Texas. If you have a Jewish-related question, 866-348-7884. It can relate to Messianic prophecy, Jesus being the Messiah. It can relate to what's happening in Israel today, Jewish tradition, even Islamic-related issues. We'll take that as well. 866-348-7884. Get to calls a little bit into the show because there's some ground I want to cover first, some important subjects to talk about. A few thoughts on the debate that aired yesterday on Piers Morgan Uncensored between Rabbi Shmuley and Candace Owens. I'm not going to do a deep dive on that, but a few comments I do want to make and play one representative clip for you. And just a reminder, our Frontline newsletter that'll go out in, less than 2 weeks, will focus on Israel. Excerpts from Jewish book content, Jewish testimonies that will really bless you. And a very important message. I haven't written it yet. I'm really thinking and praying, okay, what do I communicate to best edify and equip you? But we want to infuse you with faith and truth and courage. We want to help you stand strong on the front line. So if you're not getting the Frontline newsletter, take a moment, go to thelineoffire.org, thelineoffire.org, and simply click subscribe. All right. I do not see most social media posts on our different platforms. I wish I could read every one of them. I wish I had time to interact with every one of you. Obviously, it's not realistic or possible. But I try to see a lot of comments on YouTube on controversial issues. And sometimes if it's not like a massive flood of thousands of comments, then I can actually go through a bunch of them. And I saw this comment that was posted on a video about the pro-life movement and Donald Trump. And I feel it's a fair question. Because of that, I want to read it to you and then take some time to address it. Dr. Brown, could you please explain to us all why you can't stand with and support the Democratic Party because of their pro-abortion, pro-homosexual stand, or Trump's pro-abortion stand? And you say it is a sin to stand with these candidates' parties, but you have no problem standing with and supporting Israelis' pro-abortion, homosexual government country. Why is Israel and Jewish people not held to the same standard as the Democratic Party or Trump? Very fair question, and I appreciate it. Number one, I do distinguish clearly between President Trump's weakened pro-life position, which is just moderate pro-choice, and the radical pro-abortion, pro-choice platform stance of the Democrats. So while I could vote for Trump with reluctance and certainly not put my hope or trust in him to bring about social or moral change, I could not vote for a Democrat. So maybe that wasn't entirely clear to you. My whole point on that show was to say, do not put your trust in a man as if he's going to bring about pro-life reform, because it's not in his heart. It's not who he is. But I'm not getting into that again right now. But totally fair question. Let's just make it the Democrats. I could not vote Democrat because of their radical pro-abortion policy, because of homosexual activism, etc. Whereas Nation of Israel, even though there is strong opposition to some of the gay activist agenda in the country from religious Jews, and religious Jews will not be as strongly pro-life as we are, but they're not going to be radical abortion like the Democrats, still, Israel has very liberal abortion policies. And in terms of the Middle East, Israel would be the most accepting of the LGBTQ community. That's the whole irony of queers for Palestine or queers for Gaza. You get killed in those settings, or arrested in those settings, or beaten in those settings. Whereas Israel, you can pretty be very out and proud, gay and lesbian, trans, and it's fine and accepted and even celebrated in certain places. That being the case, why is it I stand with Israel, but I could not vote Democrat? So, bottom line, number one, I stand with Israel in terms of God's purposes for Israel. I recognize that Satan wants to wipe Jewish people off the planet and that God has promised to preserve Israel and the Jewish people. So I stand with them against the devil. I recognize that God has brought them back to the land and Satan wants to drive them out of the land. So I stand with God's purposes about Israel being in the land versus Satan wanting to drive them out of the land. I stand with God's purposes that there will be a Jewish Jerusalem in Jewish control at the end of this age, and that it is the eternal capital of the Jewish people by divine design and plan. Therefore, I stand against Satan trying to take Jerusalem sovereignty out of Jewish hands. And then lastly, I stand with God to see Jewish people turn to Jesus the Messiah, where Satan wants to keep them away. So in those ways, I stand with Israel and I support Israel. I support Israel's right to exist as a nation. I support the right of the nation to defend itself, etc. I support all of that wholeheartedly and without hesitation. At the same time, I grieve over the sins of Israel. I grieve over traditional Jews' fervent rejection of Jesus, Yeshua, as the Messiah. I grieve over some of the sinful policies of the government. I grieve over bad choices of the Netanyahu government. I have no problem speaking against those. And if I lived in Israel, I would vote for the parties that I felt best carried my values. So living in Israel, I would vote accordingly. However, in terms of standing with Israel as a nation against Islamic radicals that want to wipe them out, yes, I stand with Israel. In the same way, if in my community there were people who started bullying a gay couple or a kid who identified as trans, and it was in my neighborhood, and it happened, and I was aware of it, I'd go to those people and say, hey, I'm standing with these. No, you don't touch that. That's wrong. That's illegal. And if I see you touch them, I'm calling the police. That's wrong. All right, so I don't affirm their homosexuality. I don't affirm their trans identity. I don't affirm that. But I absolutely affirm there's fellow human beings who should not be mistreated or hurt. Here, let me take it a step further. I despise what takes place inside abortion mills. I absolutely despise it. If I knew someone was plotting to blow the building up, in particular during work time, killing everyone inside, I would notify the police. If I was aware of that, I would notify the police. So my standing with Israel is on those same lines. It does not endorse everything Israel does. It does not affirm everything Israel does. If you come with me on a tour to Israel, God willing, when we're able to bring tours back again, and it's the right time to do it, you come with me on a tour to Israel, I'm always blown away at how deeply others are blown away. I'm blown away by how impacted they are. I know it's going to happen, but still, when it happens, and I'll run into people a few years later, and they're still talking about the impact it had on their lives, we want that to happen. We want the Bible to come alive to you. We want you to have a connection to the Bible and to the Lord and to the land in a way you never did before, which can really only happen when you're there and walking the streets and at those ancient sites, etc. But I always tell our tour groups, you talk to anyone that's been on our tours, I tell them I want you to leave with a burden also. I want you to leave with a burden for the Jewish people. Yes, towards the end of the tour, and it only works out towards the end, we're at Jerusalem, we're at the Kotel, the wall, what is called the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall. We're there, and we will go and spend some time praying at the wall. We schedule it in to do that. And you may be praying side by side with religious Jews, and they're praying their prayers and often pouring their hearts out. And sometimes just you can see the anguish and the intensity of the praying. I said, I want you to leave with a burden. I don't want you to say, oh, it was amazing. Went to Israel, and we prayed side by side with religious Jews, and it was touching. I want to go deeper. I want you to leave saying, but Lord, they're so passionate. They're so sincere, and yet they don't know you the way I know you, and they don't have forgiveness of sins the way I do, and they're rejecting. They don't know who Jesus is. They don't know who Yeshua is. They have a wrong picture in their minds about him. Oh, open their hearts, open their minds. So yes, the thrill of being at the sites and the thrill of everything that happened at that time. Yes, you drink it in. As people have said, it's like reading the Bible in black and white your whole life, and now you get to Israel. Now it's like reading it in color. It is extraordinary. Yes, absolutely. But we want you to leave with a burden too. That's why I freely talk about Israel's sins. That's faithful of the wounds of a friend. That's why I have no problem standing up against Israel haters and against anti-Semites and against those that are so anti-Zionistic that it really is Jew hatred, the demonizing of a people, the delegitimizing of a people, using unequal weights and measures, comparing them with others as standards people often use to say when does anti-Zionism become anti-Semitism. I will call that out. I will stand against it. I will reject the charge that Israel is attempting to commit genocide or committing genocide against the people of Gaza. I will stand up to those that say that. At the same time, I'll have no problem saying that the Netanyahu government is partially responsible for everything that happened because the security failures happened on his watch. And the nation was as deeply divided as it was because of the coalition that he cobbled together with some really dangerous, extreme right-wing elements. I have no problem saying that. I have no problem saying that the IDF will be for months and even years to come investigating charges of war crimes committed by different soldiers. And that reports of Israel raping a man in prison, Palestinian man, that's being looked at, and there must be discipline. I understand it's wartime. I understand the pressure, the stress is incredible, but you cannot do that. You cannot do that. So as a friend, of course I'm going to rebuke. Of course I'm going to call out. So can I cast a vote for the survival of Israel? Yes. Can I cast a vote that Israel has the right to defend itself justly? Yes. Can I cast a vote against radical Islam and its attempts to obliterate Israel and the Jewish people? Yes, yes, yes. Can I vote for abortion? No, no. So in that regard, now as a friend of Israel, working within Israel, if I lived there, if I was a citizen and could vote, I would vote accordingly. And if there was a pro-life movement in Israel, I'd seek to be a part of it. And I'd be pushing back against the culture wars and trying to get my material out in a relevant way in Hebrew for a Hebrew-speaking audience to deal with the culture war issues and family issues and sexuality issues and gender issues. I'd be doing all that while still standing for Israel. So America, we need to repent. There's blood on our hands. There's all kinds of sin. But if someone's trying to wipe us out, you better believe I'm going to stand with America in a patriotic way against someone trying to wipe us out. So ultimately, you're comparing apples with elephants. We're talking about two completely different categories. And I hope that's clear to you. But it's a great question, which is why I took time to answer it. We come back. Tell you what, let's go over. We'll go over to New York to start. And then we're going to play a clip from the Piers Morgan uncensored debate between Rabbi Shmuley and Candace Owens.
This is Michael Ellison, founder of Trivita Wellness. I want you to hear an amazing testimony from my friend, James Robison, and most all of you will know of him. He and his wife, Betty, host the Life Today television program. Now, here is James.
Let me tell you about a miracle I experienced. My friend, Michael Ellison, he and his wife are our 40-year-plus best friends. Well, let me just say this to you. I had so much pain with what was called tennis elbow that I could hardly reach over and pick up the phone without pain, without it hurting me. I couldn't pick up something to drink, a glass of tea or anything. It was very difficult to do anything without wearing a tight strap. And then Michael shared the Nopal cactus juice with me, Nopalea. I began drinking about that much in the morning in a glass and that much later in the day. And in 3 months, I was a different person. I have now gone more than 10 years with no pain. Not better, well, I have no joint pain. I'm telling you, it did something to the inflammation in my body that was undeniable. Now, that's just my testimony. But that's been more than 10 years with no pain. Matter of fact, if I miss, for some foolish reason, a few days, I can feel it creeping back that fast. So give it a try. See if it helps relieve your pain. I hope it does like it has mine, because it worked for me.
Nopalea is supported by clinical studies for lowering inflammation and improving mobility, flexibility, and range of motion in the neck, back, and joints for less reliance on pain medication and improved quality of life. Call 800-771-5584 and use promo code BROWN25 to receive 25% off your order. As a new customer, 100% of your order goes to support the Line of Fire. Call 800-771-5584 or go online to Trivita.com.
It's The Line of Fire with your host, Dr. Michael Brown. Get on The Line of Fire by calling 866-34-TRUTH. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
Thanks, friends, for joining us on The Line of Fire. Michael Brown, delighted to be with you. 866-348-7884. You know, I was talking to James Robinson on the phone one day, and he brought up to me how he had arthritis, his whole body lit up with arthritis, tennis elbow, all this constant pain, and then started taking Nopalea twice daily, and all the pain disappeared. He's basically giving me an ad on the phone, even though he knows that I use Trivita. He was just so excited about it. So I appreciate his testimony to that effect. Part of my routine and supplement as well. All right, I do want to share a couple of thoughts about the Candace Owens-Rabbi Shmuley debate, not getting into it at length, but do want to share a couple of thoughts of that, as well as update you as to where things are at with Israel's war with Hamas, hostage negotiations after the horror of Hamas executing cold blood, as we know, shot to the back of the head, these hostages that had endured so much for so long. And then as they understood the IDF was getting near, their orders were execute them. Just mind-boggling. There's even a statement from a global council of Islam condemning Hamas. Maybe I'll pull that up and read it for you. But first, let's go to the phones. We'll start over in New York. Moshe, welcome to The Line of Fire.
It is not a sin to be ignorant, but it is a sin to be willfully ignorant. And on the day of judgment...
Wait, hang on. You know what's really bad? When someone lies and comes up with a false name. I think last time was Ephraim. So, buddy, give it up. All right? You're done. Give it up. The moment you're not going to call in using false names, because otherwise you couldn't keep getting back on, only for us to have to cut you off. If you want to have a little integrity, then you state, you give it 3 weeks before you even try to call in again. All right, I hate to deal with this like a kindergarten teacher, but this is what else are we going to do? The moment I heard the voice and someone's not going to call and correct and rebuke, I know exactly who it is. So aside from the fact, sir, that I believe you're deluded in a bunch of ways and could use some help, and that you're on some really bizarre, misleading tracks that are not going to help you long-term or glorify the Lord or edify others, and it'd be better if you just get back to meat and potatoes, focus on the Lord, grow in Him, share the good news about Jesus, Yeshua, and be a blessing to those around you. Aside from that, if you want to try to talk again, you call in, you identify exactly who you are, not with a different name and location each time, and put on the table what you want to talk about. If we want to take your call, we will. The fact you have to lie, use different names to even try to get on the air, may the Lord help us. And truly, sir, my heart goes out to you because you're really passionate about things that it's just like you're punching the air. It's not going to bear any lasting fruit. All right, so there has been a deep personal feud between Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, and Candace Owens. Shmuley and I, when we're together, we have great times. We spend hours interacting in quality ways, have debates. They'll be pretty intense, but then we'll have a meal afterwards in a warm way. But otherwise, we're not in contact. We don't see each other much. And Shmuley's taken, let's just say with the October 7th war, with everything that happened, with his own sons being on the front lines of war in Israel, that Shmuley's pitch has gotten even more shrill and more intense, and for better or worse. And he and Candace have really upped their battle, and for good reason. Daily Wire dismissed her, and that became an ugly feud between Candace and Ben Shapiro. And then because, in Shmuley's eyes, Ben Shapiro was empowering Candace, then he began to attack the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro as well. So it's really gotten very ugly. And I only saw select parts of the debate so far, but ultimately Piers had him on to debate the war in Gaza, and it ended up personal out of the gate. And I would just want you to hear the end, okay? I just want you to hear the end. I would gladly interact with Candace. I don't know if she knows who I am, but I'd gladly interact with her. And if she wanted me on her show, in that sense where she controls the mic, but if she wanted that and the opportunity presented itself, great. She'd come here, obviously, but she's got a massive platform of her own. But I'd welcome dialogue. I've not been able to interact personally, but I gladly would, privately or publicly, and discuss issues, because I have no question that she's drank the anti-Semitic Kool-Aid. I have no question from things I've heard her say out of her mouth, even on this debate, that she's drank the anti-Semitic Kool-Aid, that she now believes the worst possible reports and stories about Jewish people today and through history. To the extent Shmuley comes after her in a very intense way and can get ugly with her personally, then to that extent, that's going to be further fuel for her fire. So right now it's a vicious cycle between them. But Piers Morgan at the end is trying, well, here, this is how it ends. Listen to this.
We've got to end the debate, and I want to end the debate by giving you both this opportunity, right? You are both religious people, right? Every religion purports to be peace-loving, right? Religions are supposed to spread peace and harmony and love and respect and kindness. Whether you're a Catholic, as I am, as Candace is, whether you're a Jew, as you are, Rabbi Shmuley. So I'm going to ask you both, and I'll start with you, Candace, to say something nice about Rabbi Shmuley. Be a Christian. What would you say?
Yeah, I actually deeply appreciate Rabbi Shmuley having a platform. It's not something that I've ever said I want his platform stripped away, because I think that he does more in terms of revealing what it is that I'm speaking about when I'm talking about radicalism than anybody else. And so in that way, I'm grateful that he has a platform, and I would never call for him to be banned from anywhere. I hope he gets a megaphone, and I think that
as a
people
human being,
watching his behavior today.
Do you see any saving grace as a human being?
I think I will pray for him. I will pray for his conversion into Christianity. I don't think it's normal to lie like that and feel nothing, but he continues to do it. He's filing FBI reports against me over pizza. I don't have any hatred in my heart towards Rabbi Shmuley. I really don't. And like I've said, I hope he forever has a platform, because I think that it showcases to the world what it is that I'm speaking about when we speak about radical Zionism.
Okay, Rabbi Shmuley, do you want to say something nice about Candace Owens?
Absolutely. She is gifted by God with incredible eloquence. I think she can repent and cease being a force for hatred against the black community who call her Candace, who have rejected her utterly. She is one of the most despised women in America by the black community. She is doing a whole new tour to be reaccepted. I think she can use her eloquence to apologize. Instead, she essentially hinted that the only reason she attacked the black community for the past 4 years, calling them stupid and dumb and can't vote for themselves and cry wolf and racism, was because she was forced to do so at the Daily Wire. I call it the Daily Liar. Maybe that's correct, but I think she should take personal responsibility. Saying that Israel was created as a haven for Jewish pedophiles by Theodor Herzl is not the way she's going to repent. Saying that she defends Kanye West when he says he loves Hitler. Hitler killed 10,000 Jews a day, 3 9/11s a day for 4 years.
Okay.
Between 1941 and 1945.
I think we know the greatest.
Wait 1 second, please.
No,
Piers.
I know the greatest hits are coming.
Please.
It's fine. We've heard them.
But
All
you know,
I wanted
you
to
wanted
do
to
was
speak.
say something
You
nice.
said I think she could use her. I think she could use.
That's how we started this.
I think she could use her eloquence to repent. That's all.
Okay.
And I think finally, that if Candace could just come forward and admit that as a Christian, Jesus said clearly that you cannot approach him except through the Jews. He said that the Jews are the root and Christians are the branch. The fact that we in the community consider her the #1 anti-Semite in America means that she cannot relate to Jesus. So I'm saying become a Christian. That's a nice, very nice thing to say. The fact that Jesus said, I am sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. Come and learn about the Jewish Jesus. You know what, Candace? I'll give you a free copy of my book, Kosher Jesus. It teaches you about the Jewish Jesus. The meek shall inherit the earth. Love your enemies. Turn the other cheek. Don't say, and stop calling me a killer. Stop saying I'm trying to kill you. You've said it over and over again. You are saying what Henry II said. Rid me of this troublesome priest.
I think we've established you're struggling to find anything nice to say about Candace, but I appreciate you both coming on together for this debate. I think it's been very illuminating, and thank you for doing it. Thank you for being uncensored.
Yep. Hey, Mom, Dad, have you ever had that with your kids? Say something nice about your brother or your sister? We'll be right back. Hey, friends, Michael Brown here. My delight to serve as your voice for moral sanity and spiritual clarity. We are living in such urgent times today, friends, that all of us are in the line of fire. There's a target on your back. There's a target on my back. If you simply seek to live by biblical values or just conservative moral values, you could be canceled. You could be cast out. You could be put down. You could be silenced. I'm here to say, friends, that I am not about to be silenced, and I don't believe you are either. It is time for us to stand up. It is time for us to say enough is enough. It is time for us to push back in Jesus' name. Not fighting the way the world fights. No, overcoming evil with good, overcoming hatred with love, overcoming the flesh with the power of the Spirit, overcoming lies with truth. And that's what we're here to do on the Line of Fire broadcast. And friends, it's not just a broadcast, it is a movement of people around the world. God's people standing up saying enough is enough and saying, Lord, here we are, send us, use us. I want to urge you today to join our support team because we are on the front lines together. And we are literally touching people around the world, in America, in the nations, in Israel. And together with your help, we're going to amplify this voice and spread this movement around the globe. So I encourage you, go right now to thelineoffire.org, thelineoffire.org. Click Donate Monthly Support. Thelineoffire.org, click Donate Monthly Support. When you do, you become a torchbearer. We immediately send you 2 great life-changing books. We immediately give you access to many classes I've taught. Others have to pay to take those. You get them for free. Exclusive video, audio content, a new audio message every month, an insider prayer newsletter, 15% discount on our online bookstore, so much more. Join our support team today. Go to thelineoffire.org. Donate monthly.
It's The Line of Fire with your host, Dr. Michael Brown. Get on The Line of Fire by calling 866-34-TRUTH. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
Thanks, friends, for joining us on The Line of Fire. This is Michael Brown, 866-34-TRUTH. It is Thoroughly Jewish Thursday. Phone lines are open. Again, you may have a position contrary to mine. You may differ strongly, passionately with things I say. That's why we have phones. You can call in and we can have a discussion. And you can be nasty to me and want to yell and scream at me. I'm not going to yell and scream at you, God helping me. I'm not going to respond in kind. But the whole thing is let's talk. It's easy to attack. It's easy to. You ever punch a punching bag? You know, it's easy to punch a punching bag. It doesn't punch back. Yeah, it's a whole lot different thing to be in a boxing ring with a boxer or to be in a cage with an MMA fighter. And when you kick them or punch them, they kick or punch back. So you can blast away on social media and make your great points. But if they're so great and strong, by all means, give us a call and we can have an honest, friendly conversation. You may convince me of something. I may convince you of something. Or we may end up more resolute in our positions, but at least the conversation benefits others as they hear and they can interact as well. 866-34-TRUTH. We will go back to the phones and we'll go to Deb in Texas. Welcome to the Line of Fire.
Hi, shalom, Dr. Brown. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure thing.
I'm calling you today because I'll just try and be as concise as possible. I'm a Messianic Jew, follower of Yeshua, and I'm in a Bible study. I'm the only Jewish person, and the Bible study was canceled this past Tuesday, and the message that we received was because they were going to be celebrating a feast, and I assumed it was Rosh Chodesh, so I kind of reached out and said, wouldn't that be wonderful if we talked about that, because we've talked in the past about following the biblical calendar. I've provided them with biblical calendars. And the note I got back from the leader was that they follow the Metonic calendar, and actually on Tuesday on Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of Elul, they actually celebrated Yom Teruah. And I found that just as a Jewish person celebrating or following Yeshua and wanting to help Christian or Gentile people understand the feasts and celebrate them and also be a ministry to Jewish people, my Jewish people, I found myself very angry because it feels a lot like replacement theology. It feels like they're subverting.
So what?
If
So
that falls in.
yeah, just help me again. What?
They called it a Metonic calendar.
Yeah.
METONIC. And my research that I did on it before, once I had this angry response, I thought, let me find out about it. I think that mostly it's based on Greek history and trying to coordinate what's happening in the skies with Greek festivals. I want to be able to minister to them, but I want to do it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. No, that's okay. I'm sorry to interrupt. There's tons of things that I'm familiar with and tons of things I'm not familiar with. And this is one, right. So in the Babylonian and Hebrew lunar solar calendars, the years 3, 6, 11, okay. Cycle forms the basics of the Greek and Hebrew Metonic cycle. Somehow I've just never been asked about this. The picture of the 19 years of the Metonic cycle is a wheel with the Julian date of the Easter new moon from the 9th century. All right. Okay. Yeah, I guess the question would be first, why are you even emphasizing these things? For what purpose? I wouldn't want you emphasizing new moons either. That would be quite secondary, and there's not a redemptive push with that. Colossians 2 even warns about don't get caught up on those things. The substance is found in the Messiah. But to go in this direction makes no sense to me. In other words, why emphasize it? It's one thing to say, well, we celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter, and others say, actually, we really enjoy following the biblical calendar, and we celebrate the Feast of Israel together, and we don't celebrate Christmas, and Easter. Those are debates you can have, right? So for many, Christmas and Easter,
debates we have had.
Yeah, and Christmas and Easter
because
can be.
They are interested in not celebrating Christmas, and they talk about having strife with their family because they want to follow the biblical calendar. And when I talk to them about the biblical calendar, they seem interested, but they don't follow that either. They're following this Metonic calendar, which is causing them to celebrate Yom Teruah on Tuesday.
Right. So, all right. So two things. First, again, I don't believe that God commands the whole church world to keep the Feast of Israel. We should understand their prophetic significance and spiritual significance, but people are going to come from different custom cultures background. For example, many people around the world, some of the holiest days of the year where they really encounter God would be Good Friday, Resurrection Sunday. So ideally, that should be celebrated within the Passover season as part of the Passover, the death and resurrection of Messiah. But if that's not part of their cultural background, they should recognize how Passover and Easter are actually one cycle and recognize the significance of things. But either way, my concern would be, why major on these secondary things, and what's even the purpose of it? So you have to ask them why. Why this? Why not the calendar that the believers would have followed in the New Testament? If you're trying to follow a calendar and want to be biblical, why not go back to the biblical calendar that would have been followed by Jesus and the apostles? So again, I don't think it's mandatory to do that, but if you're going to follow a calendar, yeah, you have to have the conversation. I'm baffled otherwise. What would be the redemptive reason? Have you ever heard them bring this up before?
Well, I've not heard them actually call it by name, but I think I've had one experience before where it seemed like they were celebrating something that wasn't in line with the Hebrew calendar, the biblical calendar. But this, for some reason, this just really struck me. I guess maybe it's just whatever season I'm in is in beginning, especially beginning Elul and all the preparation for it. And we honor the festivals and we invite them, and we invite for the community, and they come on our Sukkot. And I thought, like, what's going on here? I want to address it. But and that was my thought is why?
Yeah, when you have, it's like if you're trying to get to the airport and you have a car, you could walk. Why walk 20 miles when you can drive? So if you have something that's in place that's biblical with rich theological significance that can also join you in solidarity with Jewish people around the world, why adopt it? Again, it's one thing if you said, hey, our customs, our Christmas, Easter, that's our rhythm of life. That's what we're used to. We grew up in. We really celebrate the death and resurrection of Jesus and the birth of Jesus. So we pray for the Jewish people during these other seasons, but that's not when we celebrate. I understand that, but this, I don't get. So I guess you just, Deb, you have to ask, as perplexed as you are, without coming in with a combative spirit. So you got to pray that through first. So because otherwise, just remember Proverbs 15:1, that a harsh word stirs up strife, a soft answer turns away wrath. So really pray for a right spirit, not judging, but just wondering what would be the motivation and why that over a biblical calendar. And when you hear it, either they're going to have some reasons that sound reasonable to them that hopefully you can convince them are not, or you're going to find out they've gone off the deep end somewhere. Something weird's going on. Hopefully not that, but yeah, I can't help you. It's utterly it's as baffling to me as it is to you, Deb. That's all I can say. So, but don't lose your focus now, just because you're coming into a time of the year where we're
especially because the message I'm getting about forgiveness. I mean, it made me unusually angry.
Yep.
And I think it has a lot to do with replacement theology, because that's something that we've talked about, and I thought they had a handle on it. And this feels a lot like that, because if they're finished with the fall festivals before we, as the Jewish people and Messianic Jews and those that are coming alongside of us, start to celebrate, then how is that a witness? And if you tell a Jewish person, oh well, I celebrated Yom Kippur a month ago, and then
no, if you're gonna do it,
in Yeshua,
right? If you're gonna do it, and I'll leave with this: if you're going to celebrate a biblical feast or holy day, do it on the biblical calendar. Right? Otherwise, for what purpose? Now, you could debate. You could say Yom Teruah, the trumpet blast, is not Rosh Hashanah to us. Passover is Rosh Hashanah to us in accordance with Exodus 12. You could say that. I get that. But this other, no, I don't get at all. But anyway, guard your heart. Focus on the main things this month, and maybe the Lord will give clarity with your group. Otherwise, it may not be a long-term fit. All right. I want to play a couple of clips for you. I'll start here before the break. Fox News a couple of days ago interviewing Israeli military commander, rabbi, one other guest, talking about Israel's right to defend itself. How far does that go? What's actually going on? So I got a couple of clips, 3 clips. Let's play the first clip now before the break. Go ahead.
Out of Bel Air here in California, Christina Pascucci, a former Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate in California, and Amir Avivi, who previously served as Brigadier General in Israeli Defense Forces. Thank you all for coming on. General, to you first. The Wall Street Journal had the following by the editorial board, quoting here: Hamas murders 6 hostages. Israel is blamed. It goes on to read, Hamas probably can't believe its luck or the lack of moral seriousness by its enemies. The terrorists murder 6 Israeli hostages, including 1 dual citizen American, and Israel is suddenly under pressure to make concessions to Hamas. Why is the first reaction from this country, General, to blame the Israeli government?
I think it's terrible. We're dealing with an evil organization that executed 6 of our citizens, and Israel must defend itself. We are fighting an existential threat on 7 fronts. And we need the administration to stand firmly with Israel, not to point the blame towards Israel, but do it towards Hamas. Hamas is killing our citizens, is holding hostages. It massacred 1,200 people in one day. It burned people alive, raped women, decapitated heads of children. And Israel must eradicate this organization, and we expect the administration to fully support us in every way.
Yeah, so far that hasn't quite happened, but I know that people are pulling for exactly that.
All right, so we'll come back on the other side of the break and just give you an update as to where things stand in this agonizing hostage deals, as the whole nation of Israel really is in a traumatized state. In fact, I'll tell you an eyewitness account when we come back. Stay right here.
You Chronic inflammation is the greatest health threat to humanity. Infections, injuries, toxins, poor diet, and chronic stress can attack your immune system and lead to chronic inflammation. But now there's a solution you can fight this dangerous silent killer with. Nopalea, made from the superfruit of the Nepal cactus, containing a unique group of bioflavonoids clinically shown to reduce chronic inflammation.
In a random, double-blind, placebo-controlled study, it showed a reduction of elevated at-risk C-reactive protein levels, resulting in an improvement in range of motion in the back, neck, and joints, and an overall improvement in the quality of life.
Nopalea has helped thousands of people by lowering levels of chronic inflammation.
Let's hear what customers are saying.
I'm a personal trainer and owner of 3 gyms. Super excited, doing a renovation in here, bringing new equipment in. And as I was bringing the new equipment in, I was trying to move a piece. I moved, the equipment didn't move, and I injured myself severely. So it was frustrating. It was really depressing. I wasn't able to work out. I wasn't able to train. I wasn't able to do just normal daily functions. After taking Nopalea, I found that it really helped with my recovery, not only with my severe injury in my back, but it also helped in my recovery of my workouts.
Nopalea has helped thousands of people by lowering levels of chronic inflammation.
To place your order, call 800-771-5584 or online at Trivita.com. As a new customer introductory offer, use promo code BROWN25 for a 25% discount on your purchase of Nopalea. And 100% of your first order will go to the support of Line of Fire. Go to Trivita.com or call 800-771-5584. Again, 800-771-5584.
All right, we are back. Looks like we lost our feed temporarily. 866-348-7884 is the number to call. I encourage everyone all the time, keep the main thing the main thing. So in our own lives, in our own spirits, let's major on walking with God, being disciples, making disciples, living godly lives, being people of prayer, loving God, loving our neighbor. Major on the majors. And then there are many things that are super important. The Word is filled with hundreds, thousands of issues that we study, we learn. But our overall thrust of life, major on the majors, keep the main thing the main thing. Okay, I met with one of our key spiritual armor bearers, one of our prayer warriors, on Thursday when I was in Texas. And he told me that when he was in Israel a few months ago, that he met one of the first responders to the Nova Music Festival massacre, one of the first responders there on October 7th. He was so traumatized by what he saw, one of the early responders. He was so traumatized by what he saw, he was unable to talk for 2 weeks. Unable to talk for 2 weeks, which makes perfect sense. Just being there and just seeing the poles with the banners for each of the people, the plaques for each of the people that had been slaughtered there. They're just seeing their pictures was devastating enough to actually see the carnage. I don't have any point of connection there. You see scenes like that on some level, but not even that grotesque in movies or whatever documentaries. But being there, no, I can't imagine. And he gave my friend, our prayer warrior friend, gave him a necklace to wear. And my friend said it was Hebrew than English. So I went to see what the Hebrew said. My friend said it says, "Bring them home now." I said, no, that's not what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew said, "Halev shelanu shavui ba'aza." Our hearts are held captive in Gaza. That's the level to which the nation has been traumatized. And yes, of course, the people of Gaza are traumatized because of Hamas, which is ultimately the cause of the war. So a few more comments about Israel's right to fight back. But first, before we get to those, right now, Hamas is so decimated militarily that their demands have gone down some. America is pressing hard. Israel's pressing hard. God knows ultimately where the obstacles are in terms of who's actually saying no in different cases. The negotiators keep getting closer. We're told that one of the key issues is the Philadelphia corridor. So it's basically 9 miles, as I understand it, across Egypt, the corridor between Egypt and Gaza. And Israel says if we don't control that long term, then a flood of terrorists will pour in, and a flood of supplies for terrorists will pour in through Egypt. So we must control that for our security. Otherwise, we'll have October 7th over and over again. And that continues to be a sticking point. Now you say, why would it be such a sticking point unless you want to use it for terror? In other words, is it that important for the good of the nation? I'm not an expert on the ground there. But that would be my question. Why is it so important to you? Why is Hamas insisting on that? And again, the only reason there's negotiations with Hamas because of the hostages, which you knew going in was a horror. So we just have to keep praying for God's gracious solution and to bring life out of death and hope out of hopelessness and light out of darkness, because it's a dark and difficult situation in Israel and in Gaza right now. But back to the obvious questions about let's not lose our focus about who started this and what's going on and Israel's right to defend itself. So go back to clip number 2 of this interview on Fox.
Our old friend, Rabbi Eden Yadigar, who's a Columbia student, back at school, of course, now. She has been on this show. She said this today on Fox and Friends. Watch.
These protesters, especially on campuses like mine, have been so empowered in their support for this terrorist organization that you literally have leaders of Hamas and of the Islamic Republic issuing statements of gratitude for them and for their protesting. I mean, it's appalling, and it's frankly very frightening.
Appalling and frightening, and yet it's reality, Rabbi.
Big time reality. People are not realizing, and I'm asking America to wake up and smell the coffee. We always said, how did it happen in Germany? How did it happen all over Europe that people started hating Jewish people? How did it happen? It's because everybody just stood back and said, we don't understand it. But it's happening like this, like this, like this. From college campus to college campus. Jews are being run out of everything. But wake up and smell the coffee. Germany came and destroyed your entire continent. Look what's going on right now in Europe. Look what's happening there. Yep. They already took over London. They're already taking over France. They're ready. What's happening in Germany is now happening in America. And I got to say something to you, Trace. I love my country. But when we allow these people to march wild through college campuses without nobody stopping them, it's going to be bad for America.
You talk about unbelievable, Christina Pascucci. This is a New York City anti-Israel protester on Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, where he says Hirsch deserved what he got. Watch this.
An American was executed yesterday by terrorists. Are you okay? He deserved it?
Sure.
Why is that?
What business does he have?
What business did he be at a music festival dancing with his friends?
Israel killed him.
Israel killed him?
It's difficult to reason with that kind of hate, Christina.
That is a quintessence of ignorance. Hirsch was a peace advocate who went to a music festival. Right. There is, absolutely nothing deserving of what he got, and I would urge that person to sit down with the parents of Hirsch, who have been they've moved millions of people around the world. To be that heartless and that out of touch with reality, I'm extremely worried for the future of our country when I see that.
You have bought into the narrative. Hook, line, and sinker. You have bought into somebody's evil narrative, and somebody needs to have a sit down conversation with that man, because he has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get into that last clip now, but just hearing that, he deserved it. This young man at a music festival has his hand blown off by a hand grenade, somehow survives that, is taken hostage, then executed, shot in the back of the head by his captors. He deserved it? What's he doing over there anyway? So the Jews don't have the right to live in their historic homeland? What? And Israel killed him? See, this is what's so frightening. this is what's so terribly frightening, is the irrationality of it all. That in many ways, we're dealing with sociological contagion where lies just spread. But I'm convinced it's demonic as well, friends. I'm convinced it's not just irrational, it's also demonic. I'm convinced on an intellectual level as well as a spiritual level. I'm intellectually convinced, having studied this on and off for decades and really focusing on it some decades back and looking at all the different explanations for anti-Semitism through history and on a contemporary level. And none of them add up. None of them work. None of them connect all the dots. None of them. They all ultimately fall short, leading us to understand there's something spiritual and demonic going on. So friends, never stop praying. Yes, get the truth out. We'll continue to get the truth out. Stand with us. Help us shout our voice out even more loudly. As you support this ministry, you enable us to shout our voice out even more loudly, standing against the lies of anti-Semitism, standing for the salvation of the Jewish people. So stand with us against the lies of the enemy and for the salvation of Israel. Together, we are making a difference. Pray for us, pray with us. But remember, we are ultimately in a spiritual battle. And one part of the debate with Candace Owens-Rabbi Shmuley is at the beginning of the debate when she starts talking about this radical rabbi, and Shmuley was mentored by him or looks to him as a hero. And this radical rabbi says the soul of a Jew is different than the soul of a Gentile and is a Jewish extremist. And I realized she was talking about Menachem Mendel Schneerson, known as the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Obviously, he would have profound differences with someone like me. He died in 94 at the age of 92. He would have profound differences with someone like me as a Jewish believer in Jesus and would grieve over that. But you're talking about a man considered to be perhaps, well, certainly the most influential Jewish leader of the 20th century, the one who helped more Jewish people follow Torah than any Jew in the 20th century. And RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr., who's a close friend of Shmuley's now, he came out with a public statement blasting Candace, saying, my father went to the Rebbe for counsel. But Candace believes that. And when she cited the book, she mispronounced the names of the authors, or at least one of the authors, that didn't register with me. Then afterwards, like, oh, I've got his books too. This guy is an Israeli, but could not be a more Judaism-hating, Judaism-bashing person. I mean, remarkably so, in all kinds of extreme ways. But Candace believes it's true, and other people believe it's true. I saw the quote about the Rebbe dehumanizing Gentiles in a book written by David Duke that I own. And anyway, it's scary to see it happen in front of our eyes. A pastor shot me a note the other day after seeing another right-wing host with a somewhat Holocaust-denying or Holocaust-downplaying statement. And I said, man, I've never seen it on this level in my lifetime. It's a serious and sober moment, friends. Let's stand together. Let's pray. Let's speak the truth. Let's not back down, because God is looking to us to do the right thing today. Remember, you can stand with us. TheLineOfFire.org. Click donate. Together, we're making a difference.